Hello everyone. This time I would like to talk about the children, whether they educate while they're young. Considering I'm from a different country and I have been in different countries and they don't really have much of homeschooling type of thing. So considering that, whether they're, as a parent, as a Christian parent, should they send their kids to Christian school while they're young or public school? From my own experiences and from this during mission trip time, I spent with 6 kids, and then I saw them. I saw how their parents treat them, how their parents educate them, and they're all going to different school. And I've noticed something different in them. And from my experience, I used to go to school that was Christian while I was young, and then it wasn't quite as similar as Weimar. It was just like Christian school that was very similar to the public school, but they had a title of name Christian. And they did everything, including myself. We did everything that we weren't supposed to do, such as listening bad music, rude languages, and in karaoke. Our hobby was just really similar with the public school kids. I think there's nothing much different. Of course, we did pray before school starts, had a little short worship thoughts in the beginning, yet everything else was very similar. So for me, I thought this was Christian, so I thought it was very acceptable for me to do this because this was supposed to be Christian school, and their parents supposed to be Christian family, and everything else they did was supposed to be the kind of reflecting how the Christian kids supposed to be like. So I thought everything else they did was very acceptable, and in school they didn't really mind us doing those kind of thing. And if their parents educate their children well enough, I think that, give me your opinion. I think this is very, really smart idea for them to send their kids to public school if their parents educate them really well. Because for me, I didn't get that chance. But then for people who can educate their children with a really good Christian education, they get to see what is wrong and right, and they get to choose that there's something wrong, differentiate world and Christian view. Not just like go to Christian school and get confused with this kind of acceptable type of thing. What do you think? Yes.
I've been reading a lot about this one lately for American Family, and one of the themes that have stuck out very strongly is influence of other children on our children. And even on adults. She didn't just address the children. She said even if we're strong in faith and we have a connection with Jesus, the influence around us will wear us down, no matter how long we've been walking with God. So I think it's very dangerous if parents.
Wait, I'm sorry. Which one are you talking about?
With
Public school? Okay.
Or certain.
Yeah, but then, I mean, if the only other option is a Christian school that's basically the same thing as a public school, at least you know what you're getting at public school. You know it's not Christian. But whereas if you go to a Christian school where they're doing the exact same thing as they are in a public school, just with a Christian name, then it, like John was saying, it confuses you as to what Christianity is. And it's like, me and all my friends are Christian and we're doing this and this and this and this, and that's okay. Then, I mean, that's not okay.
I personally saw myself, including myself with a lot of kids, that we have experienced to leave church, and some of them are like hasn't come back to church yet because in Christian education, it didn't allow us to do certain things, and then we didn't really quite understand why we weren't supposed to do. And then when they leave the school, when they taste the world, and they were like lately, so they had more harder time for them to come back to church and stuff like that. I've seen it. Yes.
So your question is between a Christian school that is only Christian in name and a public school, and the children we're talking about sending to either one of these schools. You said were ones who the parents are educating them well, so why not send them to a public school, and maybe they could even be a witness there, or they could see the difference between good and bad. But I'm thinking if the children have a good, strong education at home in spiritual things and stuff like that, then they could have that same sort of, they could see the same sort of thing going to the Christian school. they could see the contrast between what their parents are teaching and what they're seeing at school, even in the Christian school, because there are bad things going on in the Christian school. But in the Christian school, you wouldn't have things like tests on Sabbath or some different situations like that where it would be hard to keep your faith. Like at least you would have some things that would be positive towards your faith. You wouldn't be kicked out or something for standing up for your faith.
Would it be better choice, or would it be better good experience for them to having experiencing those kind of things that they can just stand up for the faith while they're young?
Yeah, but I think the situation we're looking at, they could do that at either school.
Allow me to say though, I think it's easier to stand up for your faith to people who are not of the same faith as you, like who don't claim to be, like I think it's much harder to talk about your personal convictions that may differ from like another Adventist, for example, than to someone who is not Adventist.
Mm-hmm.
So like if the kid was like, I don't do that, whatever, because this and this and this and this, because I'm an Adventist or whatever. And then, maybe a kid at public school would understand that because they're like, oh, his religious beliefs don't allow him to do that or whatever. But if you're at an Adventist school where everybody else is doing that same thing, you're like, yeah, I don't want to do that because that, and they're like, yeah, well, we believe the same thing you do, so what's the difference? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's more difficult to stand up to someone who believes the same way as you do.
Yes. Anyone else? If you had children right now, if you get the education that you get right now, and if you have enough strong foundation of what you believe, would you send your children to the public school or Christian school that is around while they're young? If there's no such thing as homeschooling, yes.
Well, I think you should counsel with other godly families and ask them their opinion of your abilities to prepare your children for what they will face at school. Because you might think that you've prepared your children for public school, but you might not be the best judge of your own character and your own ability to raise your children. So I think it's important to consult with other godly people in the church and ask them, do you think that my students or my children are ready to face public school? And then they can be like the Waldenses. But I think generally, though there are many bad things about Christian schools, unless you have that confidence from the community that you have raised really godly children, there can be other negative things. But I can see that there's negatives in both sides, but still seems like public school can be even more dangerous than a Christian school, in spite of the hypocrisy. I'd have to think of some specific examples, but go ahead.
For instance, when you're looking at contrasting a public school with a nominally Christian school, I think it's important to notice that we're not just dealing with students and the peers of your children, but you're also dealing with staff and teachers. And teachers have a large impact on their students. No matter how you train your child, they're going to be listening to their teacher, and they're going to, depending on the age of the child, which I think is another important factor, they're going to be accepting to a certain degree what the teacher says. And in a public school, they could get anything. They could get anything about evolution, about the way we think, the way we act, the way we should be. Anything goes.
Yes.
But in a Christian school, even though they may have around them influences for bad, at least they'll be taught things that are hopefully more in harmony with the Bible.
Yeah, actually, from the experience during this break, and I saw this children who goes to public school, children who go to private school, Christian school. They're all a family, and I get to see the difference between them. And then good part was the children who goes to the public school, they were asking their parents. Of course, they have learned about evolution and stuff like that in school. They get